Well, Eddie Van Halen, one of the great guitarists of all time. I had a great pleasure of interviewing him a few years ago. Charming, warm, funny guy, really likeable, but also one of the great guitarists.
And some of the biggest names in music have been paying tribute to him overnight. He's died at the age of 65 following a battle with cancer. Just before we go to an old friend of Gene's and a rock legend himself, Gene Simmons, I just want to play. This is a little bit of the interview I did with Eddie, and it was with LL Cool J randomly. We're doing a thing together, but it was quite poignant given the news that came overnight.
How have you survived the business, though? Because so many people in your trade have died young of overdoses, alcoholism, whatever it may be.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, what do you put it down to, though? What is the art of survival?
Music, you know, making music.
Yeah.
You know, keeps you young.
Can you still do that jump?
Yeah.
The same height?
Well, it hurts a little more.
Yeah.
when I land.
He said it wasn't about the jumping, it was the landing was the problem. I'm sure Gene Simmons can relate to that. Gene, thank you so much for joining us, first of all. Incredibly sad news. Eddie Van Halen, one of the great characters of rock, but also from a technical point of view, one of the all-time great guitarists.
He really was. I'm fortunate enough to know some of the greats in the jazz world and the classical world, and I will tell you that, you know, they don't usually heap praise on people that pick up electric guitar and aren't schooled. The astonishing thing about Eddie was that he wasn't really schooled. He was a classical pianist, as a matter of fact. That's him on Jump. But music theory and stuff like that, he played emotionally and he taught himself. What you saw, this phenomena that was Eddie, was self-taught. I'll never forget, they were headlining. I mean, I was there at the beginning when they started playing clubs and everything, and I saw the phenomena that is Eddie Van Halen explode. But when they came to New York and headlined the first time, I went backstage and, you know, it's all exciting and all that. And Eddie was all smiles. That's the saddest. I'm sorry, I'm getting caught up a little bit here. When I think of Eddie, all I think about is that big smile. Whenever something was going on, just always took the high road. And we're backstage, and I said, let me play your guitar a little bit. Let me see what that feels like. It's completely out of tune. I said, Eddie, you can't go up on stage. You're going up in a half hour. You better tune your guitar. He took the guitar, and he literally, in his hands, by bending the neck just so, and with his wang bar, it was perfectly in tune. His you know, man's best friend is a dog, but clearly Eddie had a relationship with that guitar that just defies definition.
And Gene, there was one little story that came out overnight. You probably know this better than most, but Quincy Jones wanted Eddie to play on Michael Jackson's Beat It. And he didn't really want to do it. And then eventually he said, I'll go and do it. He wasn't doing anything outside of the band, but Eddie said, OK, I'll come and do it. He went down and he listened to the song once. He completely rewrote a load of it in terms of the music and put in these amazing solos, which we now know from Beat It. Some of the great guitar playing of a legendary song you'd ever hear. And Michael Jackson came back and was like, wow, OK. And Quincy Jones was like, wow. He was there 20 minutes. And yet he produced a moment of musical history.
And you're talking about people that span different musical genres. I knew Michael and Quincy, of course, but Quincy's background was doing Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
And then he started doing pop and Michael Jackson. Look, today you show videos of you interviewing Eddie, and that's wonderful. And it's interesting. And I talk about how I was there and I produced their demo, and I didn't discover anything. I was just there at the beginning. It ain't about us. The saddest part is apparently only the good die young, and I'm devastated. Part of this is the idiocy that rockers do, which is to hide behind the facade and all that. And that's what I'm doing now, you know, the silly hat, the thing. But if I took this stuff off, I'd start bawling like a 12-year-old kid. I was just devastated. And, you know, life isn't fair. There are a lot of bad people out there that, in my estimation, shouldn't be on the planet. And yet this kind, beautiful soul, who was also a monster of a talent, is taken away, and at such a young age. We're devastated.
It's incredibly sad, Gene. I can see how moved that you are by it. And I know that everyone that knew him felt the same way. Listen, I interviewed him once, spent a bit of time in his company. I thought he was utterly charming, just had a wonderful sense of humour. But what I was really struck by was the passion for the music. That ultimately, he said he didn't go into this to be a rock star. He didn't care about the fame. The thing that drove him to keep playing, keep performing, was his passion and love of music. It was that he lived for.
I will tell you that in my travels in life, you know, the journey that is life, and I'm sure yours, you seldom meet a beautiful soul. And I'm not talking about yours truly. I couldn't shine Eddie's shoes. I fall prey to ego and fame and chicks and money and all that kind of stuff. I've never seen Eddie hang around that sort of the silly part of fame and the self-aggrandizement, if you will. He was always really just about his love of his instrument and the music. And I would urge you to go and Google any of the Van Halen live shows or solos, and there's Eddie like a
funny enough,
fury.
Gene, it's funny, you know, while we've been talking, my brother is a massive fan of Eddie Van Halen, also yourself, by the way, and Kiss. But he said, I didn't know you'd met the GOAT. He said, if you want to know why he's the greatest, then look at this. And it was actually, he sent me a clip from Eruption, one of the Van Halen records. He said, unique and special, one of the greats. So my brother's just a fan. He's an army colonel, but happens to love Van Halen. But he thought, if you go back and watch exactly what you just said, some of those guitar solos that he did, just out of this world, a musical genius.
And his technique of not picking, he's sort of tapping on the frets and sometimes often going into harmonies and stuff. You know, friend of mine actually plays in a symphony orchestra, but he loves rock and all this stuff. And Eddie was the king. You know, there was Hendrix that made everybody stop. And what is that? From Clapton to Page to everybody else, and not since Hendrix. You know, Eddie changed the world. But I will tell you something. It's a humbling lesson for me, yours truly, because I'm full of ego and all that. I'm aware of it. It's my failing. Eddie Van Halen never said a bad word about anybody. And it's funny today, the sad part of it is when I heard the shocking news that he passed away. So help me God, the first thought, my first image was of Eddie smiling.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange?
It's not, actually. I think, Gene, that's absolutely sums him up. He was a guy that made people happy with his music. He was a guy that made people happy away from his music. He was just a nice guy. I saw that in the brief time I spent with him. Gene, it's been wonderful to talk to you. You've really put a wonderful insight into this guy, and I can see what it meant to you and what he meant to you, and we really appreciate you joining us. We want to just, I think, play a little bit of Jump, you know, one of Van Halen's greatest songs, and see Eddie Van Halen in action. Gene Simmons, thank you very much indeed. Fantastic. One of the all-time greats. Many tributes coming in from viewers who know, Justin on Twitter, R.I.P. Eddie. My dad introduced me to their music when I was young. I'm so thankful that he did. Johnny on Twitter, R.I.P. Eddie, rock god. Carlton on Twitter, one of the greatest guitarists I've ever seen live on stage. Rizal on Twitter, the master, the god of guitar. May he rest in peace. and his music never be forgotten. It definitely won't be forgotten. A total genius. Lovely to hear Gene Simmons there.
I know.
Who,
He's obviously a
never
very
seen
special
Gene
person as
that
well,
moved,
wasn't he?
actually. He
Yeah.
obviously very close to him, and a very sad day for everyone in the music business, and indeed the loss of Johnny Nash overnight. The man who sang "I Can See Clearly Now."
The rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
I mean, quite an anthem
song,
for our
isn't it?
time, that, isn't it, really? That, you know, one day we'll probably be playing that, and it will seem a brighter, better day than it is right now for most people. Anyway, loss of two greats from the music business. Very sad overnight. Lorraine is here.
Morning.
Sad,
I love
isn't
that
it?
song from 1972 because a lot of people say, I can see clearly now, the rain has gone. I thought that's what they were saying.
I can see clearly now Lorraine has gone. Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
See, it works. That was lovely. That was just really, yeah, that was real nostalgia. Proper tunes, proper tunes.
Well, you can't beat proper music with all the new technology these days. Musicianship doesn't have the premium it used to have. And what Eddie Van Halen had in particular, just the technical brilliance of his guitar playing is mesmerising. You know, for anyone who loves their music, he was about as good as it gets. So sad news. Only 65. You know,
it's no
he'd
age.
been fighting cancer for a few years.
I
And
know.
very sad.
It is absolutely. Right, let me tell you what's coming up at 9 o'clock.